Hey everyone, how you doing? Today we are going to talk about team variety and squad building. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is I've noticed on occasion that some small percentage of the player base points the blame towards the rest of the player base, and I think it's completely absurd to do that. So instead of putting the blame on EA as a company, what some small percentage of people do, they've completely lost the plot and they're suffering from some video game version of Stockholm syndrome. And they're basically defending Daddy EA blindly. And instead of pointing the blame on the company that makes the game, right, they point the blame at the rest of the player base. I think it's completely absurd to do that. And today I want to provide us with what I believe is a very effective and fun solution to improve team variety in this game. And this is why I have the screen behind me here today. We are going to alternate between this screen and our trusty notepad. Also, you will notice at the top of this browser, I have actually about a couple dozen tabs that we're going to try to gloss through pretty efficiently later in the video. I want to provide you some examples of the solution that I would propose. And to be clear, EA should have implemented this years ago, and I think it would have made friendlies a lot more fun and provide a lot more variety. So let's go back here for a moment. Just a bit of context. Yesterday, EA released a One Nation Glory objective. You have to get 10 wins. I went 10-1, so it took me 11 games to get the 10 wins. You can see my friendly record behind me. So this says this video has nothing to do with skill issue or even a personal complaint or anything like that. I just couldn't help but notice that a small percentage of the community points the blame at the rest of the community for not doing the fun thing and using non-meta players, when it's actually EA that should be incentivizing the entire player base to use different types of teams. You can also see my last 5. So most people play goal and goal. With that being said, let's scroll over to the requirements in this friendly. Okay. You have a maximum of 2 lone players and you can't use 89 or higher players, and you must use one country/region at the most in your starting 11, which means every player has to be of the same nation essentially, right? Now, I am not a coder. I am not an IT expert, but I know enough about that from other people that these type of restrictions will be incredibly easy to implement. It is probably a few lines of code and a few seconds of effort, basically, for a massive company like this to implement a few more squad requirements. This is not a robust implementation that they have to figure out. It's not complex. So here's what I would propose, right? And now at this point, we're going to go back to my notepad to show you. Okay. If you look at, I'm going to skip all the way down to 3B and 4 on this notepad. Okay. Imagine they had a requirement, because listen, I use a French team. It's a great nation to do a one nation cup mode. It's so easy to use French players in this game. The only other nation I came across on a few occasions was Spain. Basically, from what I recall, in any one nation objective, 100% of the teams were either French or Spanish. So here's what I'm proposing. They could list the top 5 to 10 nations and put an individual requirement saying maximum French players, 0, right? Maximum Spanish players, 0, maximum even whatever Brazilian players or whatever nations you want to eliminate. Because if you eliminate from this type of game mode the top 5 to 10 nations, okay, there will be more parity between teams. In other words, the competitiveness between different nations will be much higher. Where as it is currently, if I run a French team, and if someone were to run a team from here, I'll just pick a random tab. We're gonna pivot. Let's say someone wants to use like a Colombian team, for example, right? There's some players in there. There's a few special players. You got a free Luis Muriel. You've probably got Gold Diaz, not too expensive. You got a few players. You could have gotten this Duran card, whatever. I've got a variety of nations behind me here. In fact, what I'll do right now is skim through, right? Some examples of nations that would be fun to use and wouldn't be too overpowered, because the most expensive cards in those nations anyways are pretty unobtainable, right? You've got Belgium, you've got Cameroon, you've got Colombia, right? You've got Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, you've got Egypt, right? You've got Georgia, right? And we can go on and on, okay? So I've got a bunch of these. You can just look behind me, right? Mexico, Nigeria, right? Norway, Poland, Cameroon, Uruguay, right? And I'm also going to go through these as well. I know I'm all over the place here, so please forgive me. Okay. Imagine you went into this game mode and EA put those other restrictions where you can't use France, you can't use Spain, you can't use Brazil, you can't use Italy, whatever it is. And you make a full, whatever Mexican team, and you play someone who's using a full Nigerian team. To me, in my mind, if I had to pick a not so popular nation and compete against someone else who's probably not using that nation, they're probably going to use another nation because you have more incentive to do so. That would be fun, in my opinion. Maybe that's just me. You tell me, right? Is that just me thinking that this would be fun instead of me using a French squad because it makes the most sense? And 8 out of the 10 teams I play are French squads as well. Even if I win, 80 to 90% of the games, right? You see the same basic teams every time. And then when I don't see France, I'm seeing Spain, and you have Patrick Guajaro and some other Spanish, relatively meta Spanish players, right? Okay, let's go back to the notepad here. Another thing you could do, instead of the top nations, or instead of a nation-based objective, make it a league-based objective and take out the top 5 leagues for males and take out the top 5 leagues for females. So you put a few individual pieces of code that say maximum players from Premier League, 0, maximum players from La Liga, 0, and so on and so forth. Very easy to do. I hope there's no one watching this who thinks that is a complicated thing to implement. I really, really hope that's not the case. Okay. We all know, all of you who are around, you're smart. Okay. 99% of you, right? If you have the patience to go sort of listen through my videos, like, you can acknowledge that this is a pretty easy thing to implement in the game. And there's one important thing to tie this together, and then we're going to work our way back up the notes. Okay. Give better rewards for competitions like this, because I think what a lot of people are struggling with in the game, especially if you're free to play players, which is probably still the majority of the player base, it's not that easy to get ample fodder for SBCs. What EA should do is give slightly better rewards and put some extra restrictions on the most meta nations or leagues. I guarantee you will see way more variety. You'll see people going onto the market, buying random players that they never would have bought, right? You're going to see some creativity in which nations people pick, what formations they choose to play, and therefore what tactics they decide to run. You'll see a tremendous amount of variety. Okay. Now, I want to work my way back up here. Okay. Take a deep breath. Some people feel like the role system that EA implemented this year is a positive way to force variety. And I'm not going to get too mad at that as an opinion or anything. I just think it's incorrect. I think the actual reason, well, I can't tell you for certain the combination of reasons that EA executives decided to implement this feature, right? But here's what I do know. I can show you even a bit of video evidence that demonstrates that this EAFC IQ and these roles are still complete nonsense. So let's have a bit of fun here. Let's watch a few clips. These are just a few of many examples. And if you play this game, the hint is obvious. Do you feel like your offensive AI is actually intelligent? Because I sure don't. And I haven't really heard of anyone feeling like their offensive AI is highly intelligent in general. So let's have some fun here. Oh, you know what? I hope that's not. I better mute that. I'm going to mute that right now just in case it comes through. Okay. So this is Mohamed Salah, who has extremely high attack positioning, one of the best gold cards in the game, one of the most sought after cards at this stage in the game. And let's do a quick rewind here. So let's do a little brief pauses, right? So at each phase in this attack, where do you think Mohamed Salah would be and should be going into? Okay. What spaces should he be occupying? So great pass into the middle by Diaz, right? Where do you think Salah should be going? He should be cutting in, right? And by the way, in this example, we may not have proof of what tactics the person has on this player. So that is true. You could make that as an argument if you want. If you think that this person is playing Mohamed Salah in like a wide playmaker position or something, you can make that argument. But there's a big issue with that argument, because even if you have a certain role on a player, it should still be contextual. It should still be, the player should have enough basic intelligence, especially if you have like 90 plus attack positioning and you're like an 89 rated gold card, like a winger. You should be intelligent enough to cut inside, especially because you're left footed and you can just take a one-time shot on the left foot in this position. So it doesn't matter what roles you even set on the player. In this position, there's only one right place to go for one of the best attackers in the world. There's only one right answer. And if you think the answer is anything else for any reason, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. That's basically it. So where does Salah go? Amazing. Amazing. He runs like as if he's being chased by a fucking lion. Like he's gone, dude. It's instant. The player's ready to pass to him and he just turns around and books it like he's running for his life. Okay? Unreal. Unreal. Sorry for the bright screen behind me. We have a couple more video examples. Let me make sure. Okay, that's muted. Let's see what happens here. The name of this is actually kind of funny. What in the FCIQ? So let's go step by step here and see what happens. Oh, this is a little bit different. So I wouldn't say that this is player role related too much, but I mean, that's unreal. The goalie, unreal. Look at this. This is the IQ system. These are the things that EA keeps in this game. Look, the goalie panics and drills that ball into his own net. This is never basically this never happens in real life. Even in the lowest levels of sort of teenage or preteen soccer / football, that goal doesn't happen. And this type of thing happens all the time in this game. It's insane. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this was a good example. Player roles. So the coloring is a bit odd on this video, but this person is right. So this person is asking the viewers to pay attention to Dybala, right? So he's managing the team in the blue kits, right? And so here you have a cam, right? Look, first of all, look at how many players in white kits on the white team are in the screen. You have 1, 2. I don't know if you can see my mouse right now. Can you see my mouse? Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting 2, 4, 6 players that are basically surrounding the player on the ball in the blue kit. And then there's Dybala as the only player even remotely in the play. Okay. You have a couple other players on the blue team who are completely irrelevant and covered 100%. They have nothing to do with this play. They're out of play completely. So Dybala as the only even remote passing option. Let's see what Dybala does as a cam. He's this user, this player is anticipating that Dybala will continue making his run forward into the clear open gap, the only gap that exists on this quarter of the pitch, right? And by the time he actually clicks the button to make the pass, look at what Dybala does. So the defenders prime Sergio Ramos, Pepe, Piqué, Puyol, prime Maldini level effort and FCIQ. Defending FCIQ, 10 out of 10. Match rating, 10 out of 10. It doesn't get better. Okay? Look at how much the team in the white kits hustles. They keep moving. But within half a second, Dybala has removed himself from the play entirely. If any player at any professional level of soccer or football ever did that once, their contract would be null and void. They'd be sent home and they would never play in a professional league again. You don't do this, okay? Let alone one of the best players, most creative players in the world. It's just not how it works. So why is this so common in this game? Why is offensive AI completely abandoned? I don't know. So Dybala's gone. Easy turnover. I think all of us know that this is a common occurrence. This happens all the time, this type of situation. So this person's 100% right. Game's not a finished product, not even remotely close. But so just to rewind back to my notepad here, okay? Team variety. I know there's two different things we're talking about here today. Team variety could have been easily resolved and solved by EA by incentivizing a variety of teams in the friendly game mode, which is the perfect place to do that. Because here's what you cannot ask anyone to do. You can't really ask or force people to play with completely non-meta teams or players in weekend league foot champs because it's already extremely competitive. You also can't really even do that in division rivals because on average, the skill level of you versus your opponent in division rivals is equal. That's the point of division rivals. So if tomorrow you decide you want to use a team full of, I'm going to pick one random here. Okay. If you want to pick a team full of players from Ghana, right? I'm going to kindly offer my condolences to you because you are going to get assaulted over and over again. Okay. You just simply can't enter division rivals. If you're in the division you're supposed to be with a team like this, you can't do it. But in the friendly, you're far more likely to be able to do something like that. Okay. So where were we? Okay. I've hopefully showed a few examples of why role plus and role plus plus don't work. By the way, this user specified that Dybala is in fact in a cam role as a shadow striker. So it's completely illogical. Even if you were on the wrong role, there's still only one right answer to where he should go. So it's honestly a moot point, but the roles don't work properly anyways. If anything, the role plus and the role plus pluses are just a way for EA to basically pigeonhole players in a negative way and force them, to seek other players that have their preferred role. And that's overall not a good thing. It only benefits EA to do that. It does not benefit the player base. I don't care what anyone else says. It doesn't benefit the player base. Okay? Instead of restricting players based on the role plus pluses and stuff, just give attacking players a bit of intelligence. Doesn't matter what their preferred roles are. Give them even the most basic level of intelligence. And sure, you could restrict friendlies. I think that's fine. If you're going to restrict something in the game, you could do something like what I've suggested. I think that would make a lot of sense. And then give genuinely good rewards so that people can do a little bit more of the player SBCs they want to do. Because right now, fodder is not easy to come by, even for people who are um, playing the game a lot, or even the people who are playing the game at a higher level and getting everything done. It's not like there's that much fodder to get. So you have to be extraordinarily selective with the SBCs you do decide to complete. And I think it's a little bit too far in that direction. Okay. One last thing. You could also have friendlies for one league objectives as well, right? So you have the Turkish league, right? You have the Saudi league, for example. You have the Portuguese league, right? You have South America, right? I hope I have the right thing pulled up there. You have the Dutch league, right? And you have the EFL championship. So I'll probably end on this screen, right? Imagine that you couldn't use Premier League, La Liga, etc., etc. Top 5 leagues for males, top 5 leagues for the females. Cut them out. Max players allowed for each of those leagues, 0. Okay. So you're forced to look into secondary leagues. Well, look, EFL championship. Okay, maybe they're not meta players, but they've got some team of the weeks. You have this brand new Sissoko card. If you put in the effort to complete the SBC and even maybe do the evolution, you get to use a very strong card that you just acquired. If you're someone who cares about doing squad foundations or objectives, you will be rewarded by that or for that by being allowed to use them in a game mode like this, right? With certain restrictions. So now you all of a sudden have a relatively good team of different players you would never use otherwise, right? And you should be able to get rewarded fairly for that, right? And you might even use a card like a gold Weghorst just because of his uniqueness in game, even though it's probably a horrible card. But you would actually consider it. It would actually stimulate you mentally to be like, could I actually fit Weghorst into an EFL team for this objective? I might do that because I'll tell you right now, no one above Division 10, right? All the way from Division 9 to Elite no one's using Gold Weghorst. I've never seen it and I never will see it. And if I do, in all likelihood, I'm winning that game. And I don't know how fun that game will be for the opponent. Okay. So that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. I know this was a longer video. And I know I say a lot and I apologize for that. Hope you're all doing well. If you have any questions or comments, of course, as usual, I enjoy communicating with you guys in the comments section. And that's pretty much it for today. If you have any ideas for future videos, you can chime in. I do read the comments. I do value the logical, grounded insights and the positive or neutral insights from you guys. And I do take them into account as well. So have a great day. Talk to you soon. Peace.